All right, Democratic Senate candidates continue to run strong in every presidential swing state. New data from the Cook Political Report this morning shows Democrats have increased their margin in every race except Wisconsin. In Arizona, Congressman Ruben Gallego now leads by 9 points. In Michigan, Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin leads by 8. In Nevada, Senator Jackie Rosen leads her opponent by 18 points. That state was home to the closest Senate race in 2022. In Pennsylvania, Democratic Senator Bob Casey leads by 13 points. And in Wisconsin, Senator Tammy Baldwin leads by 7 points. That number is down 5 points since May. All of those leads are outside the margins of error. Let's bring in Democratic pollster Fernand Amandi. He's also an MSNBC political analyst. And tell us what you're finding in your polling. There is some really interesting polling out of Florida, by the way, but about how some of these races may or may not have been impacted by the change from Joe Biden to Kamala Harris as the Democratic presidential nominee.
Well, Mika, it looks by all accounts that Christmas has come in August for the Democrats. I mean, these are extraordinary polls with remarkable movement, and absolutely it can be attributed to the new energy, the new momentum that has come in the direct aftermath of the change of the ticket, now with Kamala Harris on top of it for Democrats. But this is a game changer, Mika, because what it also does is it changes completely the dynamics of the race. With polls like this, with these leads outside the margin of error, as you touched on, it now means that money gushers of fundraising support are going to flow into these states as these races now look more solid for the Democrats. And then there's the extrapolatory effect of that helping the presidential campaigns there. So if you're the Republicans right now, you are extraordinarily worried because, A, now it looks like you may not be able to flip the Senate, and B, if this is happening in these battleground states, it looks like the path to 270 is getting wider and stronger and clearer for Kamala Harris. That's really good news for Democrats, obviously doomsday for Republicans.
Again, a long way till Election Day. There's no celebration in Democratic circles, but this is the result that a lot of people running for office on the Democratic side were hoping to see with the change at the top of the ticket. And even President Biden himself said in an interview over the weekend, one of the most compelling arguments he got when he made his decision to step aside was that he was hearing from Chuck Schumer and other people that he was going to cost potentially Democrats the Senate and the House.
Absolutely. I think that was a concern he said to some of us even after he'd made the decision. And I think it's critical because if you don't have not only the White House, but also the Senate and the House, you can't pass a lot of the legislation that you as a president or a presidential candidate would promise. So you need both and, particularly when you've had a Supreme Court that has rolled back a lot of the things that you need to legislate now, like women's right to choose, like affirmative action, like voting rights. So I think that it is imperative they run the whole ticket, not just the top of the ticket, if we're going to get something done.
And these polls now, Vice President Kamala Harris is leading former President Donald Trump by 3 points in the key battleground state of Pennsylvania. According to the latest polling from Quinnipiac University, Harris holds a 50% to 40% lead among likely voters in the state. That is within the margin of error, but consistent with what other polls have shown since President Biden exited the 2024 race, 47% for Trump. There's also a new poll out of Florida, which shows Harris has cut Trump's lead in half. In the latest Florida Atlantic University Main Street research poll, Trump holds a 3-point lead, 50% to 47% among likely voters in the state. That is likely within the poll's margin of error. In a June survey conducted when President Joe Biden was still in the presumptive Democratic nominee, Trump led by 6 points. So, Fernand, she's not going to take Florida, is she? But it is something that she's getting closer.
Mika, it is. And again, success begets success, as this campaign has just captured the imagination of voters across America with the relaunch with the Harris-Walz ticket. We have to, I think, be open, Mika, to the possibility that, states like Florida all of a sudden, now maybe don't look like they're going to necessarily go for Harris, but they potentially are in play. Now, that doesn't mean that I think the Harris campaign should take their eyes off of the states that are going to get them to 270, because as we know, unfortunately, campaign time is finite now. Campaign resources are finite. So before the Harris campaign says, do we invest in Florida? Do we send the candidates to Florida? I would think they would probably say, let's lock down Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Nevada, and Georgia before we do that. But look, these elections kind of take on a life of their own. Donald Trump is running the worst presidential campaign in American history. I don't think that's hyperbole to say that at this point, given what we've seen. So anything could happen. And the beauty is, I think if Kamala Harris is going to win Florida, it may happen without her having to spend massive resources here and still keep her eye on the ball on those states that are going to get her to 270.
So, Susan, a couple of notes here. I mean, the Senate numbers a moment ago, very encouraging for Democrats, but we should keep in mind how tough the map is for them. With West Virginia going Republican, Ohio and Montana very difficult, the GOP still has a decent path to control the upper chamber there. But this is obviously very good news for Vice President Harris. I mean, most that I've talked to in the campaign think that Florida is still out of reach, but the Republicans might have to spend time and money there, which is itself would be a win for the Democrats. But I think it's North Carolina suddenly looms so large. And I want to get your take, Susan. A state that the Biden team had largely written off a few months ago, now very much back. The Republicans have an incendiary gubernatorial candidate that the Democrats are certainly going to make much notice of. And Vice President Harris, no coincidence, heads there tomorrow to deliver her big economic speech. And the Republicans are forced to suddenly buy a lot of ads there, too.
Yeah. And before we leave the Senate race, it's not just that Republicans have a path to control the Senate. I think you would have to say Republicans are still favored to take control of the Senate, because if you assume that Republicans pick up West Virginia, hard to imagine that they won't, then there is no margin for error for Democrats. Even if they win the White House, they cannot lose another Democratic-held Senate seat, and there are several, including in Montana in particular, that are in danger. So not out of the woods yet on the Senate, but it's certainly a brighter picture for the Senate than we had just a few weeks ago. And on North Carolina, there's a reason both candidates are spending time there. It is suddenly an extremely competitive state. It looked like it was out of reach for Joe Biden. It looks like it's in reach for Kamala Harris. And that would give her a kind of a cushion with other swing states if she could take North Carolina.
That is for sure. Washington bureau chief at USA Today, Susan Page. Thank you very much. And Democratic pollster Fernanda Mondi, thank you so much as well.